Similar to cleaning up audio, video will also require some tweaks to get the best dynamic range out of your colors in your camera. For some, this process may often be overlooked, or for beginner videographers, it might be intimidating learning coloring. So today, I'm going to share my 4-step process to correcting poorly shot footage, and a secret you might want to know to confirm you nailed fixing a shot in post. So let's get started. If you don't know me, my name is Teddy and I'm an event cinematographer and I'm the founder of Captured by Culture Films. And I've created this 10-part series to help any beginner videographer learn the skill of video. Whether you want to learn it to get better at the craft or potentially earn a living from doing what you love, this is where I'll be your guide. Welcome to Kaizen culture. Now, what is color correction? Color correction is the process that adjusts the color, contrast, exposure, and the white balance of an image or a video. Now, why do you need to learn this skill? At some point, you or someone you're working with is gonna fuck up a shot. And whether you shoot Canon, Sony, or Blackmagic, different picture profiles, white balances, and overexposures will result in extra steps needed to match shots in post. Now, I believe Canon has the best color science when it comes to accurately capturing true colors from their cameras. I would also agree that Sony has a slightly better dynamic range when it comes to pushing the limits of their colors, especially when you're color grading. Now, as you become more confident in the process, you'll adopt your own workflow with color correction and color grading. Just for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to learn how to correct our colors and match them to one another. Now, here's a quick sequence that I created that includes a scene shot from different cameras, my R8, my iPhone 16 Pro, and the first camera I ever purchased, which was a Canon SL3. The goal is to make all of these shots match in color and exposure using Lumetri color. One shot is underexposed, the other is overexposed. Another was shot from my iPhone 16 Pro using the ProRes profile. So these are real life examples that you may experience in post. So I'm going to walk you through my process of correcting each shot. So the first thing that I do is, if I go to color, I want to start with the basic correction, right? So I could see that this is underexposed, right? And I do see that red is, I guess, the prominent color because of this text here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the exposure, right? And I'm going to make sure that I'm not pushing it to overexpose it, right? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mess with the blacks, right? Because the point is you want to stretch out this image, right? Not all the way, right? And then the whites, I'll play with that until it gets to my liking, right? The next thing you have is the shadows, right? So the shadows, right, brings in the detail in the trees here, and then this person's jacket, and then the highlights are between the whites, and then the contrast essentially is going to punch in more range. So if you click this thing, it's before, which was underexposed, after. And then the next thing I do is with the white balance, I want to make sure I captured correctly whatever is white. So I'll pick something that's white in the background or close to gray. So let's just say this tree right here, right? So that made it a little bit too cooler than my liking. So I'm just going to tweak it and eyeball it to make sure. So if you look at this one, right, compared to this shot here, all right, which is properly exposed, this one looks a little bit more red. So essentially I'm just trying to match it with what was properly exposed here. So the next one here is overexposed. So as you can see, you see the highlights are being pushed here where the 100 is. So I'm going to bring that down by using the exposure here. Next thing is bring down the whites a little bit. The blacks, I can bring the blacks down a little bit as well. And then the shadows is also going to allow me to bring down the detail and like my coat. You also have a contrast here as well. So the goal is, like I said, you want to stretch out this waveform to get the full range. And like I said, the shadows here, you play with these, this is going to bring back a little bit of detail into the, like my jacket or to whatever's dark. All right, so before, really bright, after. And then use the white balance to make sure whatever is white in the scene is white. So it didn't move much because that means, you know, it was properly exposed for the white balance. The next one here is underexposed. So same thing, I'm going to start with the exposure, bring that up to what the 100 is. All right, then go with the blacks, make sure I'm bringing the blacks down. Play with the whites, play with the shadows. All right, because I just want to get the detail back into my jacket here. Highlights, you can bring that down. And then the contrast. Detail. All right, and then next is, I'm gonna use the white balance here to pick something that's white. Cool, so I got close to it. You could tweak it to make sure. All right, so this is before, when it was underexposed, this is after. So subtle changes. All right, and then this one right here was correctly exposed. Now, the last step is we're gonna color this ProRes footage here, right? Because as you can see, this is what was actually shot, the color, and this is it without any of the color in it. This is how you match the footage, right? So you go to basic correction, you go to color match, you hit comparison view, right? This is your reference video. This is the video that you're actually going to be correcting. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure the exposure is the same. So I'm going to raise it up so that that matches. Let me get rid of this. So I'm going to raise the exposure so that that matches there. I'm going to bring the blacks down. Then I'm going to bring down the shadows. Then I'm going to bring down the highlights. And then the whites. I'm going to leave that there. Cool. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to bring back the saturation. Bring down the shadows a little bit. Then I'm going to go to the curves. See if I can bring down the blacks a little bit more. Cool. So if I take off the comparison view, right? Boom. So that's ProRes there. That's the R8. So look at the difference. Pretty similar, right? Pretty similar. So there you go. Now, like I said, using these tools, like I said, here, you can see. So looking at these tools, right? How can you tell if you nailed the white balance, right? So a third tool that you can use to help you gauge if you right here, it's going to be the RGB waveform, right? So this is broken down into three parts, I'm sorry. So it's red, green, and then blue, right? Now, if you do a mask over the part of your video that has white in it, right? If you go back to Lumetri scopes here, right, I'm going to disable. As you can see, it's just looking at the information right here where the white is. Now, if I was to move this over, as you can see, the blue is being raised over the red and the green. So when you perfectly nailed the white balance, right? All of these colors, the green, red, and the blue should match. They should all be at the same level, right? So if I was to delete this mask, this is what is properly white. So this is the white balance. And this is the actual white that was in this shot, right? So I just showed you my basic workflow when it comes to color correcting shots that are either overexposed or underexposed. And I also showed you how you can actually match footage using the features in Lumetri. So you have light here, right? Control exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks. Saturation just pumps more colors into your actual shot right here. I'm changing that. And then this part right here is the white balance. It gets it closest to white. There you go. Hopefully give me some insight on how to correct the colors in your shot. And like I said, everyone has their own process. Hopefully the way I explained it in this video gave you an idea of the functions and the tools and everything that you need to use to correct color. And at the end of the day, just experiment. That's the part of your journey, is figuring out what works best for you and what flow. But hopefully that gave you a good foundation on how to fix that, right? It is. All right, until next time, peace.